and welcome back to the 3-Hour News Show. You are still watching our signature segment, See the Story. Now we're gonna let the other hosts take a little break, and I'm gonna take over. I am your host, Hattie Promessi, and I don't know about you guys, but I love watching movies and series, and I've just realized sometimes there are a lot of people working on it to make sure that the movie or series becomes successful. Now, one of them are Foley artists, and they are in charge of doing sound effects for the film itself. Now, joining us is one of them, California-based Sanaa Kelley, a Foley artist and founder of Real Foley Sound, to share about her journey as a Foley artist. Well, first of all, good afternoon, or I should say good evening to you. I keep saying that wrong. Good evening, Sanaa, and thanks for joining us on today's interview. First of all, can you tell us a little bit about what a Foley artist does during the filming process? Perhaps because a lot of our viewers might not be so familiar with your job.
Well, hello, and thank you for having me. Foley, the best way to explain it is the performed part of sound. So all the footsteps, hand touches, when people are eating, drinking, their rights, everything is done by a Foley artist. And depending on the budget, we can do things that are a little bit more sound effecty. But like usually the sound effects, for example, if someone gets into the car, we do the hand on the car, the sit, the keys, but the actual motor sound, that's sound effects. So there's like a fine line between what's Foley, what's sound effects.
Right, so I didn't realize there was a difference between sound effects and Foley, but Foley is where you directly record it, right?
You actually are performing it as it's happening. Like if I was an actor, like you have to predict what the actor is gonna do, and you're gonna match it like miking, distance, and so you're not like just getting the sound and cutting it. You're doing it as it's happening, and you're performing it. Like if someone is sad and they're doing footsteps, you gotta act out the sound as if they're sad.
Okay.
You know, like if I'm drinking a soda, like I'm actually following the actor, how much of the soda they drink. So as I'm doing the slosh of it, I'm doing less and less of the soda. So it is actually the performing part of it. If you see some of my videos, you see me, when I'm allowed to share the screen, you could see that I'm actually doing what they're doing as they're doing it in perfect timing.
Right, I see. So can I ask why it's important for the sound to be that crisp? Like, is it that different compared to having the sound recorded directly on set?
That is a very, very good question. I asked the same one when I started 29 years ago. Okay. Why are we doing this? Like, I'm like, why aren't they using the production sounds? Like, I'm like, are they not like recording? Are they falling asleep? What's going on? So basically, when they say quiet on the set, they are making the set quiet. They are more focusing on getting the performance and the dialogue of the actors. Okay. So let's say, for example, if I'm an actor and I'm eating potato chips, you know, the bag of the crisps, the potato chips is very crinkly. So the microphone will pick that out louder than actually my dialogue. So then I have to go in and redo my lines in the studio, which is called ADR. But you really want the actual performance of the actor. That's what they're trying to get. Also, if I get a wrench and I get in the head with it, get hit in the head, you're actually not gonna hit an actor with a real wrench and break their head. Yeah. They have a prop that looks like a wrench, but when you hit it, it's not gonna hurt them. So because they know we're gonna actually fix it in post-production sound when we do Foley. And also, like, if I'm walking and I have high heels and I'm talking and walking, the high heels are going to sound louder than my dialogue. So you're not going to be able to hear clean dialogue. So this is one part of it. Let's say they were able to get really good dialogue and the production sound was good. It's not going to be clean throughout. So they're going to have to replace some of it. Or when they take it to a foreign market and they strip out the original language and they put a different language. If I'm talking and clapping, now it's good, right? Right. But then they remove the English, the clapping is going to go with it. So my mouth will be moving in a different language and there's no sound with the claps. So that's why it's important. They use it for the foreign and actually the domestic as well.
I see. That's really interesting. Now, you mentioned that you asked that same question when you first started out in Foley. So what actually sparked your interest in to become a Foley artist, and Or was there kind of like a specific encounter or instance that made you like, yes, I want to give that a try?
Well, actually, I went to school. I have my biology degree and master's in business. And I went to med school for a couple years. That was always my goal. That when I was right off high school, I went to a studio and I saw Foley artists working. I'm like, I asked that question and they gave me that explanation. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm a total overachiever. I was walking when I was like one, before I was one, so I can totally do this. Put me in front of the mic, I couldn't do it. Like, you know, you have to do heel toe, you have to make it sound natural in front of the mic. You can't walk forward because they get to capture it nice and clean, you know, and louder than it should be, because once you add music, once you add backgrounds, dialogue, it's just gonna get swallowed. You're not gonna hear it. So you have to be bigger than life, you know? So I couldn't do it. I couldn't get sync, because then you see their feet, then you see their torso, then you see it goes back and forth, the camera angles, and you have to be able to catch the cuts. I just couldn't do it. And, you know, he told me, it's okay. Some people have it, some people don't. You just don't have it. And, you know, you can't challenge me. So, of course, I called every studio and I got a gazillion no's. And one studio let me sit in, but they said I cannot sit in with the Foley artist. They didn't want to teach.
Right.
So you can't learn from them. You could sit with a Foley mixer, which they actually did me a favor, because I learned how to use my ears and get like creative. And, you know, fast forward a few years later, I went ahead and opened TikTok and Instagram, because I want people that are trying to learn, can I make life a little bit easier on them? You know, so here I am 29 years later, I'm doing Foley.
So how long did it take you to, you know, all the way from when you first began, when you first kind of came into that, let's not call it a set, but let's call it a working area for Foley artists, and you first listened to it, all the way until you were able to, let's say, do it absolutely perfect every time? How long did that process take for you to finally get it right?
Well, I faked it a lot. I pretended that I knew what I was doing. So with me, it took me a little longer and a lot of trial and error, because I did not know, no one was teaching me how to do stuff. Like, for example, I didn't even know what to use for grass. I didn't know what to use for stuff. You know, like I know now you could use hay, you could use the Easter grass, you could actually use actual grass, but it gets thumpy. I didn't know all that stuff. So it's years and years of trial and error. So it took me a few years to get okay. I don't think you're ever perfect in this job. I feel like I'm constantly learning and striving to be better.
Right.
Perfect. When you say you're perfect, then you're done. You could just like hang the towel and go, right? But I feel like I'm always learning. Even the people that I trained, I learned from them too. They have a different technique. I'm like, oh, that was kind of cool. What did you do? You know, so yeah. For the normal person, it takes a few years. I had someone that I trained that she was good with like a year and a half. Like, you know, she still asks questions. I mean, she could work, but I think for the normal person, it takes 3 to 6 years. Because it is timing, it was about miking, it's about, you know, like getting, so you could do it and sound like a robot, you know, within the first few years. But then you gotta get the performed part. You gotta, you know, you don't want to sound like it's Foley. You know you did a good job when people don't know our job even exists. It's natural.
Yeah, I totally get what you mean. And it's funny you mentioned earlier how you use different types of, what was it, hay, just to make the sound of someone walking on grass. And I find that really interesting, because I've seen a lot of your videos, and I've seen a lot of videos of other Foley artists as well, who are doing their art, right? First of all, why are the reference sounds so different than what we actually see? Like, sometimes I see someone, you know, using a cheese grater to make the sound of like someone hitting a piece of metal or something. Why is it so different than what we actually see? Like, why are the tools that you use so different than what we're actually seeing on, let's say, the set, if you will?
So it's not about what it looks like, it's about what it sounds like. So if it sounds right, then it's right. I think that's the best. Sometimes we go what we call we go method. We use the actual prop. Sometimes we know like this will sound like a coconut filled with stuff in a certain way. It's gonna sound like a horse hoof. We're not gonna get a horse and tell it to do Foley. We get gloves and put like if I have, I did like Clifford the Bit Erect dog years ago, and like I have gloves and I have like for different dog, different size, I have different things for them. For Clifford, he didn't get any nails for like he just big pads. For smaller dogs, I put glove with like paper. What is that? Paper clips. Other ones got nails. Other ones got fake nails. So I wanted all my dogs to sound different. So they're dogs, but depending on the size, I make them sound heavier, bigger, thinner nails, all that stuff. So I'm not gonna have a dog and tell them, hey, okay, let's go do the Foley. So you have to fake it, and you have to make it bigger than life. So if someone is going like this, and it's a story point, right? I'm gonna do it bigger. So if I'm talking, like if you add dialogue, they add a room tone. Like if I'm in a room and there's a fan, they add the sound of the fan. They add the sound of, if the window's open, they do like street sounds and stuff. The sound effects will do that. And then there's music, right? So you add all that. If I'm doing natural sound this little, you're not gonna hear anything. So I have to do it bigger. And then when the dubbing mixer is mixing it, they decide how much Foley they can push, how much music they can push. They level it all to see. That's why it's always bigger than it's supposed to be. I mean, on my videos, I sound like crazy Godzilla running around, but it's for a reason.
Right, yeah, I totally get what you mean. It's about making the sound that the audience can intuitively expect, right? From those things that are happening on screen, or just from even little things like a fan spinning in the room. So I'm curious, what's the weirdest item you've used to make a particular sound?
Oh my gosh, I use weird items every day of my life. The other day I was with, we're using, okay, so the note was, we're doing kissing scenes. They said they want a normal scene and no more kissing, and they want an over the top kissing. I'm like, they're like, no, and I'm like, no. So I'm like, my Foley partner that was with me working for me today, my coworker, I'm like, okay, man, get an orange. So as I'm kissing, he's going, eating an orange. That's kissing. Zombies, smashing heads, eating ribs and stuff, So obviously I'm not gonna start smashing heads and stuff. So we got like a watermelon and smashed it, and they were eating brain. So we got our hands in there and we're smushing them. I don't know if I posted the video yet. And when they were eating the ribs, they were like literally kept eating the ribs. So I used like celery to do like some of the crunchiness, and we added different layers of chamois. I added some lasagna for the smaller bones cracking, like raw lasagna. So how many years do you have to tell you the weird things I use?
Yeah, I can imagine there must be quite a lot. Would you say there's been a film that was the most challenging because it required kind of almost like a turning over, if you will, of your instinct as a Foley artist?
Absolutely. The latest show that we've worked on is Shogun. It challenged everything in my life. We had the thing was, it's such a beautiful series, and everything is done for a purpose, and it's Japanese. So I had to buy, and they wanted authenticity. It had to be authentic. So I had to go buy tatami mat, and I'll do the footsteps, and then later on I see that I'm going against the grain when they're going with the grain, so I have to do all of them again. I'm trained to do heel toe, but they shuffle their feet, and they have the socks with the toe thing, and then the outfits they were wearing, I have to match them. Then I had to do all the people, they have different gear on, I have to do it. And I bought the actual swords, the what did it call katanas? Yeah, I had to buy it. Even when they were making the tea ceremony, like the actual, like I couldn't fake it because it's such a unique sound, and everything is so precise and perfect and like on screen, so you had nowhere to hide. You had to be absolutely perfect. It was really challenging, and I have to say it was like really rewarding because sometimes you get bored doing everyday things. I just love a good challenge.
Yeah, I can imagine. It must have felt very satisfying when you did that and it came out exactly the way you wanted to, right?
Oh yeah, and then you watch it on Hulu now, and they had Greg Russell. He's the one that mixed the Foley and effects, and he has a gazillion Oscar nominations and stuff. So to have him mix it and then listen to it on TV was like, okay, that was so worth it.
I mean, you yourself, you've won awards as well, haven't you? You've won Emmys, I think four
I have
times.
not. I
Oh
have
wait,
not won Emmys. I was nominated. I
you were
have not won
nominated for Emmys,
but
right?
maybe this one will give it to us.
Hopefully soon. Yeah.
Shogun, let's do it.
Would you say being nominated has been your proudest moment so far, or is there something to do with kind of what you did with Shogun, where it completely turned everything you know basically about being a Foley artist that you felt to be the most proud moment of your career so far?
That's really interesting because I feel really proud. So here's my thing always. Let's say you have a filmmaker, you have directors, producers, camera people, like sound people. You have people that invest their money, right? So all these people, actors and everyone collectively made their masterpiece that have spent millions of dollars on them, right? Millions, like even the lower budget ones, but even the bigger budgets, right? Any budget. So they dedicate so much of their time, their money, their artistry to create their masterpiece. And of all the Foley artists out there in the world, they chose me. So every project that they give me, it is my proudest project. And I feel so, I don't know, proud that they chose me. So I can't say being nominated is my proudest moment. Every project I get is my proudest moment.
That sounds like a really healthy way to approach your life. I feel like that way, every time you have a new project, you're always happy with it. Would you say you had a project that you felt, or perhaps a team that you always feel like it's always a good team to work with?
So right now, I've been doing Foley for 29 years. I have a lot of clients. I have my own company. I have 3 Foley stages. Everyone I work with, I like. If I don't like them, they're not good human beings. I tell them, I'm not working for you. I don't like you. Be a better human. Maybe I'll work with you. Actually, I won't.
Is that kind of like your key to ensuring that the business and the work kind of works well?
Well, I just feel like why surround myself with people that are negative or unhappy with their life? Why would I bring that to my life? I love what I do. I'm not gonna allow them to ruin it for me. If I take a job and the person happens to be horrible halfway through the job, I will do everything I can to ensure that they're happy. I will give them the project exactly the way they want it. And I will do any crazy pickups they have, no problem. But I will tell them at the end, are you happy? They say yes. Is there anything else I could do for you? They say yes. I'm like, well, you could do something for me. Don't ever call me again.
All right, well, while we're on that subject, do you have a specific producer or director that you've always wanted to work with?
All of them.
All of them, every single one.
Of course I want to work on all the cool projects, so it's hard for me to say because I have some friends that work with certain directors and producers, so I rather not say because I don't like to step on people's toes. We all want to work on a really cool project, we all do, so it's like, and we get excited, we're so nerds.
Yeah, and so what's next for you in career? Do you have any upcoming projects or goals that you're excited about perhaps?
I actually have something pretty cool coming up. I created a TV show That's around Foley, and we have Paris Hilton's company and Project X Entertainment that are working with us executive producers. So yeah, we're gonna see where we go with that. So we're very excited.
Have you decided for a name for it yet, so we can kind of find out when it comes out?
I don't know if I'm allowed to say.
Oh no!
I don't know. I have to ask. I didn't ask ahead of time.
Okay, well, don't worry, because whenever it does come out, we are definitely
It does
going
come.
to be...
You'll see me. You'll recognize it, and I'm sure I'm gonna plaster it on my social media.
Exactly, yeah, you will. Well, Sanaa, Kelley, thank you so much for taking the time to have this conversation with us. Certainly, I learned a lot about, partly about the film industry, but mostly about your career, your job, the kind of work that you do, being a Foley artist. And hopefully you can come back on the show, perhaps when the other show comes out, when your show with Paris Hilton comes out, Paris Hilton's production company, I should say, comes out. And best of luck with everything.
Thank you, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, well, we're always looking forward. We're always happy to see or to talk to people who have very interesting jobs, and yours is certainly, most definitely one of them.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Have a good day.
You too. Thank you very much.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And that was our conversation with Sanaa Kelley, a Foley artist and the founder of Real Foley Sound. I don't know about you guys, but I certainly learned a lot about Foley just by having this conversation with her, and a lot more about the film industry as well. Perhaps a little bit about how Foley artists can work together with directors, with producers, and with sound engineers as well. Certainly very interesting. That's the end of our interview with Sanaa Kelley, but don't go anywhere because See the Stories will continue after the break, so make sure you stay tuned on the 3 Hour News Show only on See Today.